So it was like, even though I was still, like I told you, God was giving me the truth, I was still going to the regular Sunday service. I wasn't going to the choir rehearsal, but I was still going to the Sunday service. Because it was like, okay, let me just, come in and just still see if I could, see if I can make it fit. Okay, when I've been reading the Bible, and then maybe what the preacher's preaching, if I can make it fit. Because I didn't want to, because I was, like I told you, I'm entrenched in it.
Right.
I'm a musical director, so it's like, I can't just, it was like a homeless guy. And a white guy. So he's playing, and I asked him, I said, man, how long you been playing? He said, man, I've been playing since I was a kid. I said, really? Okay. He said, yeah, I play pretty good, but I don't play as good as you Hebrews.
All right. Welcome to another episode of How I Came Into the Truth. Today we got Brother Jeremy from Atlanta.
Nashville.
Okay.
Tennessee. Yes, sir.
Okay, I stand corrected. I say that because everybody, for the most part, knows a Jeremy that's been frequent, that's been around for us for a long time. But he lives in Carolina.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? But you live here, so that's why I say
yes,
Atlanta. But you're originally from Nashville.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
yes, sir.
Okay. Well,
yes, indeed.
I want to take it back to the very beginning. So, So first and foremost, were you raised in Nashville?
Born and raised. Actually, that's basically, I hadn't really lived anywhere else besides that. I mean, all my family's from there. My dad, he's from a town called Bell Buckle, Tennessee, out in the country.
Bell Buckle?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Definitely country.
Yeah, it's a country, little small town. And my mom, she's from a town called Lewisburg. But they both, my mom, she grew up in Nashville. And that's how they both met. My dad went to TSU, Tennessee State, and that's how he met my mom there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, TSU, Black College.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
HBCU.
Okay. I used to live up in Clarksville, not too far from Nashville, 50 miles on the other side, west of Nashville. Yeah. So, and we used to go down to Nashville sometimes, Chattanooga, stuff like that.
Yes, sir.
But so how was it coming up, man, in Nashville? Because you know the a lot of people from the outside looking in tend to look at not just Tennessee, but mainly Nashville as a more of a honky-tonk, racist type environment. And I really didn't see that much of that. I did, because I worked at Opryland in Nashville, you know what I'm saying? And matter of fact, I saw a lot of us there at the Opryland Hotel. But how was it for you coming up?
Yeah, see, that's the thing. That's the misconception. Like, a lot of people think, Nashville is, which it is, it is majority white, Caucasian. Right. But there's a lot of us there too. It's just like any city, really. I would say Nashville, I wouldn't say it's like Atlanta, but it's basically Atlanta in reverse.
Right.
So how you got majority, black folks here.
Right.
Nashville is kind of the opposite. It's majority white folk, but it's still us there too.
Right. And both music scenes. One music scene, Atlanta, blacks. Yes, music scene, Nashville.
Yes,
whites.
sir. Yes, indeed. And the thing is, gospel music, which a lot of people don't know, is huge in Nashville too. It's Memphis and Nashville kind of go hand in hand with the gospel thing, but definitely Nashville actually was home to the American Baptist Association, which they have huge conventions and stuff there. But and then with the music awards, gospel music awards like the Dove Awards and stuff like that. So that's pretty big there too. So yeah, I would say culturally, it's a lot of us there, and we have our institutions, TSU, Fisk, Harry,
University, yes.
So it's like, the black culture is there, so it's just one of those things, like anywhere, unless you go visit, you never know how it is, and people like to stereotype with the country music thing, and yeah, I mean, it's big, but really that's mainly for tourists, That's how I tell people, like, if you go to Nashville, you don't really, especially if you one of us, like, you're not going to go on Broadway, which is like the main strip for country music and stuff like that. We have, like I said, they got their thing and we got ours. But it's never been like, it's segregated, but it's like integrated at the same time.
Well, that's what I think that's what that music scene does in Nashville. You know what I'm saying? It kind of brings the cultures together because when you go out to the Bradley Parkway and to the Opryland and all that type of stuff, you see, like you say, it's tourists, so it's a lot of it. People be surprised.
Oh yeah.
You know, especially how we receive it. You'd be surprised. And of course, when you get to your hick towns, like you even outside of Georgia, you have your hick towns and racist areas and stuff like that where of course you're gonna run into that, but I can definitely say for myself it's a stereotype that's really misunderstood.
Right.
Because when you go there, man, I mean I can even say that I kind of liked it better than I liked home. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely can say that, man. But
indeed.
So you came up in Nashville. You just have one sibling, a brother or sister?
I had one sibling. Well, I got one sibling, brother.
Okay.
And he's 4 years younger than me, so I'm 41 and he's 37.
Oh, okay.
And so he lived in St. Louis, him and his wife, and he got 2 nephews.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, he's doing his thing. And I actually, make a long story short, we thought we had a sister. Long story, you know, maybe I can get into it later, but you know, it turned out to be she ain't my sister, but we thought we had another sibling too. You know, older sister, but
is that right?
Yeah, that's a known story.
Okay. So you say you coming up, you was a pretty good kid, right? Now you say sometime. What do you mean by sometime?
Look, I'm gonna tell you, like, so here's the thing. For me, like, okay, I didn't go out and intentionally get into trouble, but it seemed like trouble would find me.
Right.
Like, because I was a quiet kid growing up. I'm not gonna say I was quiet, but I was kind of shy and bashful. And see, I went to school in the hood. So all through elementary school, middle school, except for when I got to high school, I went to school out where my, you know, close to where we lived. We lived out in the suburbs, so that's where when I went to high school. So it was a little bit, I mean, it was still, you know, some things going on out there, but it was like a little bit more quiet and safe, I guess you could say. Right. So anyway, me going to school in those neighborhoods, I wasn't from there, so the kids didn't know me. You know, so it was basically like, because my mom, what it was, she didn't want me to, because she was very protective. She didn't want me to ride the bus by myself. So that's the reason why she took me out of the zone school where I was at in the suburbs to the inner city school because they had an after school program. So because they worked late, so they figured, hey, you know, he'll have somewhere that he can go after school, so he don't have to ride the bus and we don't have to worry about him.
Right.
And he ain't at home by himself, and then we can come pick him up when he gets off work.
Now, when you say inner city school, you talking about in Nashville?
In Nashville, yes, sir.
So probably pretty good.
Yeah.
Probably pretty good.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I went to school called Cumberland Elementary for first kindergarten to 3rd grade, and from 4th to 6th grade, I went to Bordeaux Elementary. So these are inner city schools.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, as far as being good, I mean, yeah, I think I was a pretty good kid. When I say sometimes, I got into a lot of fights. Know what I mean? Like, I'm talking about from kindergarten all the way to, I would say almost to the damn 12th grade. I almost said the B word. I used to get into at least one fight a year.
Really?
Yes. And when I say that, like, cause it'd be just like, cause kids, they test you. You know, so if they see, okay, he ain't from here, we don't know this kid, like he ain't talking, he, you know, kind of to himself, we gonna test him.
Right. So did you cause any of those fights?
You know what? I wouldn't think so, man. I'm not just saying that. I'm not just saying that, but I just, you know, I say this, like, I'm the type of guy, I don't like bullies, and I'm the type of guy, I don't take no stuff from people. You know, and I can have a bad temper. I think that's what it was too, which I get that from my dad. You know, my dad has a pretty bad temper, so it could be like something small that would set me off. You know, like kids, you know, of course, kids, they tease you and joke on you and stuff like that. My whole thing, I had a little big teeth as a kid. They used to call me beaver teeth.
Everybody went through something.
I mean, it was just something. You know, it was like, okay, so you go and see. I didn't know how to roast. That was my whole thing. I didn't know how to talk back, so I was like, okay, well, shoot.
So you dealt with it like
I just did like, well, I guess we gonna have to scrap here, because
man,
I didn't know how to.
Man, you wouldn't survive in Florida.
Man.
That's all we do is roast each other, man.
Yeah, see, that's
and
the
I'm
thing.
talking about I got roasted, but I had to come back though.
Yeah, see, I didn't get good at that until later. Until high school, I got pretty decent at it. But elementary school, I used to look at In Living Color.
Oh yeah,
you know they used to have
right.
Dirty Dozens, the little skit with Jamie Foxx and some of the other characters. I used to try to take a lot of those jokes and roast and be like, okay, I'm gonna use that one. And but I wasn't never creative off the top of my head. I could just roast back like real quick like that.
Right. I understand, man. And a lot of those things, man, kind of make us who we are today, man. Because you gotta have tough skin, especially being in school, man.
Yes, sir. Yes,
so how was it being a big brother?
Man, you know what? I think it was pretty good, man. Like, okay, so I feel like, my little brother, my younger brother's name is Jared. We were real close growing up. Me and him got into a lot of fights and stuff like that. I used to tease him, and the thing was, it was more like me trying to toughen him up for, dealing with the things I went through, because he went to the same schools I did, and he's 4 years younger than me, so. We were not in the school at the same time because of the age difference. Right. But I tried to, basically prepare him for, things for what's to come. Yeah. And, I probably, in hindsight, probably didn't do the best job, kind of being a mentor for him.
Right.
But as far as, us being tight, especially now, like we're very close now.
Yeah.
But back then it was more like, I tried to be tough with them, because for me, I didn't have that growing up, like a big brother to kind of look out for me. Because again, I'm going to, these, areas and neighborhoods that I'm not from, so nobody know me. So I didn't have nobody looking out for me, like having my back. You know what I'm saying? So it's basically like I'm on my own. So, I wanted to be sure that first of all, he knew that, hey, I got your back, but I'm gonna toughen you up because we're not in school together. So you got to know, hey, man, you got to be on point with certain things. And he didn't know that back then, but that's what I was doing, trying to toughen him up. Like, hey, man, you got to have tough skin, because he was like me. He had a short temper and stuff like that. So that's how it was. But yeah.
Well, now you say one of your strengths is being calm, right?
Now. Yeah,
but you lose patience. As a weakness, you lose patience.
Yeah,
pretty easy, right?
I can lose patience pretty quick sometimes.
Does your brother kind of mirror you in that same aspect?
He do. I think he does. Well, so I think me and my brother are very much alike in certain ways, but we're different in a lot of ways too.
Right.
As far as being calm, I think me and him do have that in common. We don't we're not as what you would call, we're kind of like laid back.
Right.
We kind of sit back in the cut, so if everybody else is out, kind of up, like even when I remember being in class, all the kids, you had the class clown and you have everybody doing their thing. I'm just sitting back, just observing.
Right. Okay,
that kind of thing. Okay. So that's what I mean by calm.
Like an old wise soul. At a young
I mean,
age,
yeah, something age, like
right?
that.
Right.
Yeah, me and my brother, we got that in common, but I think as far as the patience thing, it's just like if we feel like something ain't going the way we think it should, like if it ain't going our way, it's like, man, like, come on, man, what's going on? You know what I'm saying? That type of thing. Like, I could think of some recent situations, but, like my dad always used to tell me, like, hey, man, sometimes you got to just sit back and take your time and think about what you're going to do before you do it. And I think a lot of things in hindsight that I would say I would do that was impatient, it would kind of bite me in the long run. Like, I'll never forget, like, when right before I graduated from college, I was anxious because I was still living, I was on campus for a while, but then I moved back home when I was in school, when I was in college. And, and I did that because, well, first of all, I went to school at MTSU, which is in Murfreesboro.
Murfreesboro, yep.
It's boring out there, so I was like, man, I want to be closer to Nashville because that's all my homies were, and that's how we kick it. So I moved back in with my parents, and in my junior year, I was like, man, I'm gonna give me an apartment. I didn't have no money to I had a little job, but I couldn't afford it. You know what I'm saying? But I was ready. I'm like, man, I'm finna just got my little job. I think I was getting paid like $10 an hour at the time. And I rushed and jumped out and I almost got evicted, like not even 6 months in, 7 months in.
Wow.
You know, so it kind of like stuff like that. When I mean like being impatient and not thinking about,
right.
You know, planning out your next move, things like that.
Right. Well, that's definitely great advice. You know, it's good that you had your father to tell you that, because a lot of people learn that late in life. You know what I'm saying? Like I for one can attest to that. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially, you know, over the past probably 10 years, you know what I'm saying? I think a lot of experience of just seeing the Lord work on my behalf, it has exercised a lot of patience now. You know, but I think if I would have had that patience or had that kind of, you know, put inside me at a younger age, a lot of things that I, you know, did prematurely, it wouldn't have happened. You know, things would probably look a whole lot different. You know what I'm saying? Right. So some people just learn it later on in life, but patience, man, I mean, that's a characteristic that a lot of people have trouble dealing with.
Yes, indeed.
You know what I'm saying? So don't feel bad in that aspect. At least you got the calmness side.
Yes,
you know
indeed.
What I'm saying? So even with being calm, you have to exercise some type of patience. You know what I'm saying?
That's true. Yes, indeed.
But you know, coming up in Nashville, I see where first the other day when I think you texted me back yesterday, and you said you were dealing with piano lessons.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
so I just had to ask about that, because you know, when I think about piano lessons, I think about the keyboard, Hammond keyboard, Hammond organ, all that type of stuff. It automatically takes me back to church.
Yes, indeed.
You know what I'm saying? When I was coming up in church, I wanted to play the organ. You know what I'm saying? I think my dreams got killed one day because the preacher came in there and he knew I was practicing. You know, I wanted to be that organ player. You make everybody go crazy, right? You know, so I'm practicing, and finally the preacher finds out. He says, he lets my parents know. He said, well, he can get on the organ and play. And when I go around the church and say, you do this on the drum, you do this on the whistle, you know, when people be shouting and stuff, right? He said, when I call you, go. So I was already up there, and then when he called my number, I was on the piano and I started playing. And his father came and pinched me, man.
Oh, wow.
And I cried, man, and ever since then, I think I just lost.
Oh man, it scarred him.
but he didn't know his son had gave me permission. The preacher at the church gave me permission to get on that piano. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But I just want to ask you, like, where did that stem from? Like,
man, you know what? And to be honest with you, I don't really know where the musical ability came from. Really, it's just me and my brother who play music. You know, I started playing saxophone at 9 years old, 9 or 10, I believe. And that was my first instrument, you know, playing in a middle school band, stuff like that, you know. But then I used to always, if I hear something on the radio, I try to play the song on the sax on the radio. So I'll never forget, it was Michael Jackson. It was a Michael Jackson song. It was, I can't remember the name of the song, but it was like off the Free Willy soundtrack. And it was a song I heard. I was like, okay, I'm gonna see if I can learn that song, and played it. And then ever since, like I would take the saxophone to class, and all the kids would be like, hey, play that song. And so I'd be playing the little Michael Jackson song in class, and that's kind of where my musical passion or my musical kind of thing came from. Was seeing that I had a talent or a gift for music, was that, you know, being able to just play stuff, you know, that I hear, you know, by ear, and then transition to other instruments, you know, guitar, piano, bass, drums, stuff like that. So, but neither one of my parents play music, you know. My dad, now here's the thing though, my dad was adopted. So anything beyond my dad, I don't know, the history. And then my mom, she never knew her father. She, you know, knew her mother, but never knew her father. My dad knew his mother later on. He met him as, you know, when he became an adult, or her when he became an adult, but he didn't grow up with her. So, but any family history as far as music, It's just me and my brother.
It's a possibility that you might have a family rich
in
music.
Yes, sir. Yes, indeed.
Yeah,
And
more likely it come from somewhere.
yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, that's what one of my homeboys said. But yeah, I've been doing music for I'd say almost 30 years now.
Wow.
But see, I didn't start playing. So I play keys, and I didn't start playing keyboards till I was 27.
Okay, wow.
So it's late, to learn a new instrument, especially like piano. But because of God's gift,
easy.
it's just I would say within 3 years I was playing in church. And what I did was in my church that I grew up in, they were looking for a piano player. They just so happened to be looking for one.
Wow.
And I sat down. Now, mind you, I hadn't played in front of nobody before. And the pastor was like, yeah, this is after the church service, like, yeah, we need a new youth piano player for the youth choir. So I just got up, I just started messing around with the keys, and she pointed to me, you gonna be our new pianist. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm still trying to figure out Mary Had a Little Lamb and Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. But she said, hey, you got a gift for music. And I just said, okay, I listened to her, and then I say within two years from that point, I was playing, like
really?
Legit playing for real.
Really?
And I just kept on going, and I took it into other things like musical production. I was doing hip hop beats. I still do. Writing. I did a lot of R&B stuff back in the day. I even wrote some gospel songs and things like that. So,
okay.
So yeah. That's
definitely. We're gonna have to put you to work, man. Yeah, okay. Absolutely, man.
Yes, sir.
So it's funny how that kind of usually the musicians start off in church at a young age playing. You know what I'm saying? So somehow or another, it did find you. I guess that bug hit you later on.
Yes, sir.
But and that just leads me to the next question regarding church. Now, you say you came up in a Presbyterian church.
Yeah.
Now I've interviewed a lot of people. Presbyterian, I think this is the first one that I've heard. So how was that? Because most people, especially black folks, mainly are Pentecostal, House of God, you know what I'm saying, or Baptist, right?
Yeah. Methodist is a big one too.
Yeah, Methodist is a big one. When you're trying to be, you don't want to do all that jumping and shouting. You just want to get to church and go home. So how was it coming up in the Presbyterian church?
Man, I'm gonna tell you, I didn't know nobody else, no other black folks that was Presbyterian besides my church. And
so the whole church is Presbyterian?
The whole
black?
church.
Really?
The whole church is black. And from my understanding of the history of it, it's actually called the Cumberland Presbyterian Church, which is basically it's like a branch of Presbyterian Church, but I think Cumberland Presbyterian is really only in two regions, in Tennessee, Middle Tennessee, and Northern Alabama. Is like the foundation of the quote-unquote Cumberland Presbyterian Church.
Right.
And basically it's some of the same principles as the Presbyterian Church, but it was founded in the Cumberland Presbyterian Church was founded by a former slave, which basically he branched off from the Presbyterian Church because, of the, back in the day, the history of, segregation and slavery. So he said, hey, I'm gonna start my own church. And that's how that happened. Wow. From my understanding. And the Cumberland Presbyterian Church is basically 95% black. And the way they do things is it's similar, very similar to like a Baptist church. We do some of the same things, like the same songs, things like that. And they did some contemporary gospel stuff too, but it was a lot of hymns, that you would probably hear like in a majority white church.
Right.
So basically that's kind of how I grew up. I didn't know any difference, like, because I didn't really, I've been to other churches and other denominations and things like that, but I didn't see like, the major differences between the different churches. I do know that, we didn't do a lot of jumping and yelling and running around, stuff like that. like
you
you
know,
would
somewhat civilized.
Yeah.
I
mean, yeah, it was somewhat. I mean, you had
Civilized.
a couple of sisters in there that would do some of that stuff, but it would be like people be kind of looking at them like,
Yeah,
what is she
what
doing?
is that? Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, but it was more like, you come in, we had to sing a couple of hymns. We had, praise and worship, and then the preacher would preach, and then we go home after that. I mean, we'd be in there for like 2 hours. I used to have some of my homeboys that be like, grew up in Kojic, in Pentecostal, and they'd be like, yeah, we've been in church all day. I'm like, y'all been in church all day? We only been in church for like 2 or 3 hours at the most.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And we'd be gone. So it'd be like, I used to think all the churches were like that because people tell me to be in church all day. I'm like, I couldn't relate to that. You know what I'm saying?
Unnecessary. Absolutely unnecessary. But we was there all day.
Yeah. It was a little different for me hearing that, but yeah, I mean that's where I grew up, and like I said, that's kind of how my spiritual journey kind of began. Finding, God as far as knowing we're Israel.
Well, let me ask you something because so the Bible speaks of the deacon being a husband of one wife, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I see that both of your parents were deacons, right?
Yep.
So knowing that belief system, right? You know what I'm saying, that comes out of Sunday church, it's not according to the Bible.
Right.
Only a man can be a deacon, like
Right.
only a man can be a bishop.
Right.
But I know people in my family, that we have this, I guess, somewhat a spiritual advisor. Her name is last name Pittman. I ain't gonna say her first name, but she like the family spiritual guru.
Mm-hmm.
And she walks around like she wear the pants in the house. Like, for example, when she know me as a kid, so my grandfather got sick down in Jacksonville. Of course she gonna come because she close with the family. So she know me as a kid. When I grew up, she sees me years later.
Mm-hmm.
This is about 10 years ago. She see me as an adult, and she see my wife also. And she walks in the room. Of course, she greets my wife. And she introduces us to her husband.
Oh, wow.
Right? And she said, she's introducing herself to my wife. I'm so-and-so Pittman. I know who she is, right? And she said, and this is the spouse. You know what I'm saying? She calls her husband. She said, this is the spouse.
The spouse.
But that's, when you deal with the word, obviously we know that can't be the case.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? A woman leading a man.
Right.
Those positions as deacons and bishops and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
When you start dealing with the truth, that goes absolutely against that.
Oh yeah.
Now, has that conversation been brought up, or and
yeah.
if it has, how have they kind of dealt with that?
So I don't even know where to start with that. So here's the thing, because I was telling you, me growing up in that environment, I was entrenched in it, right? So, and I'll never forget how I left it. I actually, it was because we used to have our choir practices on Saturday, on the Sabbath. And, when I first started kind of getting into the truth, I was looking at the Bible like, okay, we need to be resting on the Sabbath. We need to be, worshiping the most.
Hold on. This is recent.
No, this ain't recent. This was years ago.
Okay,
I'm saying I'm just giving you some background.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because when you said playing for the choirs, I'm thinking that sound not too long ago.
No. This happened. I'm trying to think. This happened like back in 2012, 2013.
Okay, so you've been on the journey for a while.
Oh yeah, it's been a while.
Okay.
Oh yeah, yes sir.
Okay.
Yeah, so back then, like I said, I mean, I was still new into the truth, so I didn't know a lot of stuff, but I knew that part. So I wrote them a formal letter, where I typed it up. I said, hey, I no longer can participate in choir rehearsals on Saturday, because I'm trying to observe the Sabbath, and I put out a verse, and I can't remember exactly which one it was, but basically,
who's that letter to?
It was to the pastor and to the to the elders in the church.
And at this point, you were over the.
I was over the youth choir, but I was also over the mass choir too.
Oh, wow.
The church choir.
Oh,
So they promoted me up, so I was the head musician, the music director.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I'm the main guy. So and like I said, because they were relying on me, because I wasn't I wasn't the only keyboard player there. We had the pastor, who is a female, who's a woman, who she played the organ. So I had to type out the letter. I gave it to I emailed it to him, and I had to sit down and talk with my parents that same day. And let's just say they didn't really understand, because it's like trying to wake somebody up into something. Like I look at it like the movie The Matrix. It's like everybody's asleep, you know what I'm saying? But you trying to explain something to them, and it's going in one ear and coming out the other. I'm like, look, the Bible verse says right here. Because I looked at it like, if I'm doing this on a Saturday, I'm basically participating or basically agreeing to, hey, this is what you guys are doing. And I looked at it as work. I'm like, technically I'm working. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, because they paid me for
you working.
the practice and
you working.
the rehearsal and the Sunday service.
Right.
So I'm just like, this ain't right. So I explained to him like, technically I'm working. So I had to break it down to him. I brought up the the Bible verse in Genesis talking about, hey, the Sabbath day is the day for rest. I can't participate in this. And like I said, my parents, they didn't quite comprehend what I was showing them, like, what do you mean this is the day of rest? I'm like, you've been doing this for, because at that point, because I started playing with them in 2006, 2007. So it'd been like 7 to 8 years, that I had been doing that, playing, the music and stuff like that. So, and it wasn't like they didn't understand it, but they refused to accept it.
Right.
So, but that's a whole nother thing, because, like I said, I try to go through my dad, because my mom, she's so indoctrined in the Sunday church.
Right.
It's like trying to talk to a brick wall. Like it's not getting through. So I had to use my dad. At least my dad, he's
more reasonable,
and he listens. And he's like, well, son, I hear what you're saying, but, and he even said it straight up. He's like, man, son, I get it, but it's just hard to change. I said, man, I don't know what else to do at this point. The blood is off my hands. I gave it to you, and if you refuse it, I don't know, what else you want me to do, and I'm still working with them. I think the Most High is still using me to speak with them. But it's tough. And even
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say even my brother too. And my brother, I say, is really hard, because it's a long story. I just say it like this: his way of thinking is different. He grew up in the church too, but he's not. Even when we were kids, he wasn't too religious or anything like that. So he was kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out, even in the Sunday church.
Right.
So I can imagine coming to him with this new thing, and he's like, nah, what, He even he was jokingly asked me one day. He was like, man, you in the coat? I said, nah, man, ain't no coat.
I don't say that. Don't feel. We all get asked that question.
So. That's like I said, one of those things. God is still using me to kind of work with them. Right. So,
well, this goes against the norm. You know what I'm saying? From Presbyterian, like we say the Kojic, you know what I'm saying? Baptist, all of that stuff is tradition. So when you come with this right here, man, it's almost like it's a shock.
Oh yeah.
And it requires everybody to turn away from all the things that's been taught from great grandma, grandparents, all the way down to the parents. You know what I'm saying? I mean, all this tradition from hundreds of years that has been passed down in these families has to, you know, it goes against it. Mm-hmm. So you come doing what you read out the Bible, that's a problem. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is, you actually reading out the Bible. Mm-hmm. You know, but everybody, man. I mean, I've got accused of being in the cult. Most people in the church have. That's one of the first things they ask you: are you in a cult? Mm-hmm. You know, and the crazy thing about it is, the cultish behavior is what they're doing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like they actually they actually follow blindly.
Right.
Don't look up what's going on. Don't pay attention. It just whatever my parents told me, whatever my grandparents told me, that's what it is. I don't care. As long as somebody's up here every Sunday, I don't care if you're preaching lies. It don't matter. Mm-hmm. As long as I'm doing what was instilled in me as a child. You know what I'm saying? So I know that right there is definitely going to be it's definitely a bridge that you have to cross when it comes to family and friends and stuff like that. You know, my advice on a situation like that is just, once you take it to them, man, now just let your life be that example. You know what I'm saying? You just keep living this life. The more and more you consistent with it, the more and more they pay attention.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The more and more they're going to look at you as somebody who actually lives by the Bible, and they're going to eventually start coming to you for guidance, because they're going to see that you're serious.
Yes, sir.
What made you get intrigued about the Sabbath, though? Like, did that just come out of nowhere?
No, it didn't come out of nowhere. To be honest with you, it's just getting to that point was a pretty long build-up. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you, I say the journey for me getting to that point was probably around 2011, 2010, 2011, something like that. And I think what it was, I used to see these little videos on YouTube, different, quote unquote camps, IUIC and stuff like that. And they be saying like, yeah, black are the real Hebrews, and you gotta follow the commandments and stuff like that. And of course, coming from a mindset of Sunday church kid, I'm like, man, what they talking about? You know what I'm saying? Because first of all, I'm a natural skeptic anyway. But I'm like, nah, man, that can't be right. Mm-hmm. They just talking noise. You know what I'm saying? Because of course, you see, I always used to equate it to them being like Muslims.
Right.
Like they would, on the corner with the bean pies. They got the, got the newspapers. I'm like, nah, man, they don't know what they talk about. Mm-hmm. So, but I was like, in the back of my mind, though, that seed was already planted. So I said, let me just read it. Let me just see what it say. And I read it. I was like, man, something ain't quite right.
Wow. Because
here's the thing, like, growing up in church, you're not taught to read the Bible for yourself. You're taught to listen to what the preacher say. Mm-hmm. So whatever the pastor, whatever he teaches, you just take it as, okay, that's the gospel, that's the truth. Without actually sitting down and reading what it is that they're teaching. And you know how it is in the church, in Sunday church. The pastors, they'll take one little verse and they'll make a whole sermon out that one verse. So I'd be like, okay, well, so that kind of, the whole Sabbath thing kind of debunked my things. So I was like, okay, well, let me see what else is going on. So because I didn't change right away. I was like, maybe they interpreted it wrong, Maybe it's just, we can still, we can still do stuff on Saturday. Maybe it was just back then. That wasn't for us, you know what I'm saying? Today's time, because we was always taught the laws was nailed to the cross. Mm-hmm. Christ died for that. We ain't gotta do that. So I said, okay, well, let me just kind of, keep going and see what it was. This is what I truly believe. God was using other people. Because, the Bible says, in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let all truth be established. So I say this. I don't want to get too spiritual and stuff like that, but the Most High God was doing things, I'm talking about, to the point I couldn't, it wasn't no other explanation but it being God. So I'll give you an example. This was still around the time, that I was still questioning whether or not I could observe the Sabbath. I never forget, it was this white all people. We had a, of course, we had our choir rehearsals on Saturday, like I was telling you before. And the church used to go and pick up homeless people from the shelter to come by the church, and then just so they could have something to eat for breakfast and stuff like that. We used to have our breakfasts on Saturday, for free meals and things like that. So, we were practicing, we were rehearsing, and then one of the white guy came up, sat down on the piano and just started playing. I was like, man, you sound good. So I walked up to him. I said, man, you sound pretty good, man. How long you been playing? Because in my mind, I'm trying to recruit him. I'm like, hey, man, you might want to, you might sound good on the organ or something, or maybe as a backup if I'm not here. Mm-hmm. So
that's a homeless guy.
Yeah, it was a homeless guy, homeless, and a white guy.
Wow.
So he's playing, and I asked him. I said, man, how long you been playing? He said, man, I've been playing since I was a kid. I said, really? Okay. He said, yeah, I play pretty good, but I don't play as good as you Hebrews. So my mind was blown at that point. Bro, I kid you not. I looked at it like, did he just say what I think he said? No, I was trying to rationalize. I'm like, no, ain't no way. He didn't say that. He didn't say that. I didn't even ask him to repeat himself. I just sat there like, because God knew I was already asking the questions like, is this for real? Like, ain't no way. So that's the first thing. That's not even the second thing. So remember, the Bible says in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses. So I still, my skeptical mind, I'm like, nah, that didn't just happen. I don't believe it. A couple of weeks later, we had this showcase. It was like for youth choirs and stuff like that. It wasn't youth choir, it was basically like a talent showcase. And we invited different churches. You know how, back in the day, a lot of churches used to do that, just to have youth involvement and stuff like that. So it was a youth showcase. Different churches came by our church. So this particular Sunday, we had this group of young ladies in the talent show, and they had the hairdress, the scarves, and then they had the modest clothes. So right away I knew they were different. So I was like, they kind of dress kind of different because of course I'm used to women dressed in the church clothes. You know what I'm saying? But they had on different garments. So they reminded me like something that you would see like an African, but like, what's the word? I don't even know because I didn't have a word for it at the time. I couldn't think of who it reminded me of. But I could tell that they were different. Like, okay, so they got the little...
indigenous or something like that? Indigenous people or something?
Indigenous?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So maybe that's probably what it was.
Yeah.
But I was like, they got the little... I'm like, why they got the headscarf on? That's interesting. So anyway, so they started singing. These are young girls. These maybe teenage, preteen girls. They singing, and they singing a cappella. So they clapping and singing. And of course, everybody in the congregation just kind of like listening to them singing. We didn't know what song it was. It wasn't like a hymn or a song that the congregation knew.
Right.
So, but they were singing, and then they was like trying to get people involved because everybody was kind of like, these are all older people in the congregation, so they don't know what's going on. But I kind of knew a little bit. So they started clapping, and it was like, everybody stand up, y'all. Come on, y'all. We the real Hebrews, y'all.
What?
Man, I was like, okay, God, you trying to tell me something. Because this is the second time this didn't happen.
Wow.
Within 2 weeks. So I was like, okay, that's what prompted me to do more reading.
Right.
So that's how I started. To start reading more. I was like, everything I've been taught has been a lie. 95% of the things that I've been taught from the time I was a kid to now, well, I say now, but at the time, had been a lie. So I said, I don't know how to take this. Like, because at first it was like, it was a moment where it was a thing of anger. Mm-hmm. Like, man, I'm like, okay, so if I've been lied to all this time, so now it's like it forces you to, first of all, when you understand it, it forces you to change. Mm-hmm. And that was the thing. It was like it forced me to think about and change some of the things I had been doing. Mm-hmm. I couldn't live like I was in the world, because what it was, even when it's Sunday church, because what they teach you in the Sunday church, they say, hey man, look, you go out there, you just do what you want to do, come into the church, you pray, ask God for forgiveness, he'll forgive you, and you're good. So basically it was like a license to sin.
Right.
So when you coming from that, like, man, I could just go out there and just hang out, kick it with my homeboys, and we go out to the club on the weekend, go to church on Sunday, and we good. Right. And then coming into, hey, you got to watch what you do, and the Most High will take you out. It's like
complete 180.
Complete.
Yes.
So that was the first thing, was shock. It was shock and anger. And then it was another point of being humbled down to saying, look, I don't know everything. Because coming from that end, again, I had thought I knew, coming from the Sunday church, even though I didn't read the Bible. Right. I just listened to what the preacher said. So the preacher told me, hey man, look, you forgiven your sins. You ain't got to keep the Sabbath. You ain't got to worry about you can still eat whatever you want to eat and all that type of stuff. So I never forget, it was one sermon the preacher was preaching, and she mentioned what's that Bible verse? I don't know if it was in Corinthians. I can't remember which it was, but it's basically like, if your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out. Or
Matthew.
Yeah. And it was basically something about your I can say, what was it? I can't remember the term, but causing you to
stumbling block.
Yeah, not stumbling block, but like when you do, like basically, I'll just paraphrase, like having sex outside of marriage, like it's something about that, causing you to fornication. Yeah, fornication is better than not fornicate than to burn or something like that. And see the way
better
she
than married.
Yeah, better than married. Yeah, and the way she explained it, she said, yeah, it don't really mean that you burn for real. It just mean you burn with passion. I say, okay, well, that's what that means. So in my mind, before I came into the truth, I'm like, well, I guess I still have premarital sex. Right. Because if it's just if it just means I burn with passion, I mean, hey. So
yeah, I've heard that they say burn with lust, they burn with passion. That's what they say.
Hey, I was like, okay, all right. But coming from that line of thinking, I thought I knew stuff in the Bible without actually reading it for myself.
Right.
And like I said, it just caused me to be like, hey man, you don't really know what you thought you do. You know the old saying, like, you want to hide something from a black man, you put it in the book. Yeah. So,
well, considering that, and that's a drastic change coming from, not just being in the Presbyterian church, but also being in a family where, they believe both can be deacons. You leading the choir, ministry of music, you know what I'm saying, in a very important position, you know what I'm saying. You just walking away from that, it ain't gonna just like you gonna get out of that unscathed.
Oh no, sir.
So how was it when you first came into the word dealing with that?
Look, I'm gonna be real. It wasn't, like I was saying, it wasn't overnight. So it was like, even though I was still, like I told you, God was giving me the truth, I was still going to the regular Sunday service. I wasn't going to the choir rehearsal, but I was still going to the Sunday service. Because it was like, okay, let me just, come in and just still see if I could, see if I can make it fit. Okay, when I've been reading the Bible, and then maybe what the preacher's preaching, if I can make it fit. Because I didn't want to, because I was, like I told you, I'm entrenched in it.
Right.
I'm a musical director, so it's like, I can't just, it was almost like, basically being on the job. I mean, I guess you could say, you can still leave a job if you want to, but it was more like you leaving your family.
Yeah. Then on top of that, you also, I think it's also not being too sure at the time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So okay, well, hold on. Before I jump out the window, let
me just kind of see what's. Yeah,
that's a part of seeking, though.
Yeah, that's kind of how it was happening. So it was like I didn't really quite. I was still learning, so I was like, I'm still not sure what I'm supposed to do. Am I supposed to just lead the church and just, observe the Sabbath, Or can I still go into church on Sunday and still, worship with because these are my family. I looked at them as family, and they were depending on me to be there, for the music stuff. So the way I was tricking it was because I had a pretty good ear for music. So even though I wasn't at the rehearsal, I would still go and still get up on there and still play because I could pick up what they were doing. So I was like, okay, let me just play. And then they would see, at first they were paying me, but I started being like, look, don't even worry about it, because I wasn't at the Saturday, rehearsal. So I was like, nah, don't worry about paying me this time. I'm doing it for, for the love. I love y'all, so I'm doing this for the love. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, that's how I was playing it, you know what I'm saying? But they didn't know, like, what is he doing? Like, and then, of course, being a church musician, you get to see all the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
So
sure do.
I'm telling you, I done seen so much stuff, but that's a whole other topic right there. But they, like I said, I'm still trying to figure things out. So they allowed me to, even though I wasn't in rehearsal, they would still allow me to play because they knew I was like, hey, he's talented. He could pick up the songs and stuff like that. So, but after a while, it was like, man, this don't feel right. Like, this is gonna sound crazy. So they had me playing on the upright piano. So the upright piano is like a tall piano, and then on top of the piano they had the statues. They had a cross, they had a statue of quote unquote of Christ, of Jesus. They had angels. And I'm like, but see, I didn't put two and two together at the time. But every time I would sit at that piano, I would get these massive migraine headaches.
Really?
I kid you not. I would literally be like, man, why my head hurt so bad? So I'll be like, I'm still, I'm playing, but I'm like, dude, I got a headache. It was hard for me to focus and concentrate. Right. So I didn't put two and two together at the time, but I was like, okay, looking in hindsight, I'm like, yeah, God was speaking to me then. So, I was just like, okay, well, let me just keep doing it because, first of all, I enjoyed it because, I'm a musician. That's what I do. But then, like I said, I'm helping out, my family. You know what I'm saying? So, like, they, and then, of course, my parents, them being deacons and stuff like that, even though I wasn't formally, quote unquote, because I resigned from the ministry of music position, not just the rehearsal, but I just resigned from the position, period, but I was still playing.
Really?
So, yeah.
Oh, so you resigned from it? I
resigned, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So, but I was still, like I said, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. So I was still playing.
Oh, you talking about, that's when you wrote the letter?
Well, yeah. Okay, at the time I wrote the letter, I resigned from the position. So it wasn't just I resigned from the rehearsal. I'm like, hey, I'm done being the ministry of music. But I was still playing because I wanted to help them until they can find a replacement. Or, and really if it was just, because I wanted to help them out too. Because I knew just walking away like that with them not having any musician, in my mind, I thought, man, that's kind of messed up. Just leave them hanging. Right. So.
Still got some decence in the
Yeah, trying to be, I guess you call quote unquote decent or whatever. Yeah. So I'm playing and stuff like that. And then, of course, my mom and my dad being deacons, I would always try to be like, well, I don't know if I could do it this Sunday, but they keep pulling me back in. Like, son, we really would need you. Really would be good. It'd be a blessing if you play for us. Like, I'm like, man, I can't just tell them no. These are my parents. You know what I'm saying? But eventually I had to kind of wean them off of it because it was like I said, I'm sitting at the piano getting these headaches. And I'm like, man, why am I getting these headaches? And I eventually started being like, okay, these are idols up here on the piano. And then looking in the pulpit, they got a big cross behind the pulpit. And it's like, okay, this is all idolatry. And then when I started figuring that stuff out, I'll never forget, it wasn't really my last time playing, but it was getting close to my last time playing. This was like 2017, 2018, so fairly recent. Me and my dad, this was because it was actually after New Year's Eve service. Because, they used to have the New Year's Watch night. Yeah. So, we leaving. And I said, because my dad had drove the church van. And I rode with him this time because I was like, I just want to ride with him and talk to him. So we riding. I said, Dad, so how do you feel about like, idols and stuff like that? What are your thoughts on that? He was like, well, because I asked him what the definition of it was. Mm-hmm. He was like, well, son, I think an idol is just something that you worship. I was like, okay, well, let's pull up the definition. Mm-hmm. So I looked it up, and it said the idol was something not that you just worship, but that you reverence, you give reverence to. Mm-hmm. So I asked him, I said, Dad, the cross in the church, I said, is that considered an idol? He said, no, son, because we don't worship the cross. I said, but Dad, we give reverence to it. Mm. And he didn't think about it like that. He was like, son, it makes sense, but you might be right. But it still didn't click that, like, hey, you should be doing that. So that's how that kind of thing was like, that for me was, hey, I'm on the right path. God is kind of pushing me. Right. This is what you need to be doing. Right. And that's kind of how that worked out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of times when a lot of times when you come from churches like most of us have, the background as far as church is concerned, we don't really get no type of instruction as far as the Bible is concerned. Mm-hmm. So when you start on this journey toward salvation in its proper context, you see Israel all over the Bible. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
And even though in the world today they talk about Israel, they got that messed up with the people over in Israel today. So a lot of times when you coming up in churches, you never really understand the Bible because you have the people completely misconstrued.
That's true, right?
You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
But when you actually find out it's actually us,
mm-hmm.
It helps you see the Bible a whole lot different. How was that for you when you not only start reading the Bible, but realizing that the Bible was actually talking about, the people that have been scattered in the world by captivity? How did that help your understanding of the scriptures?
I say that, to me, explained everything. Because the Bible is literally about Israel.
Right.
It's based around those people, or that people. And I say what really confirmed it for me was, okay, well, I read Deuteronomy 28, but then instead of had me thinking like, man, whoa, okay, this sounds like it could apply to us, but are there anybody? Because again, I'm still new to the truth at the time when all this was happening. I'm like, was anybody else? Can it apply to anybody else? Mm-hmm. And so I'll never forget. It was a brother on YouTube that broke it down to where I could really understand it, because it wasn't even just that I could understand it because I understood it reading out the Bible, but it was that confirmation. Is that second witness, like, this is it, this is us. It was a guy named Brother Yasham, I think that's his name. And I don't know if he's still preaching now, but he had a video basically saying like, who do you think these curses can apply to? Talking about the curses. What was that?
Korah?
Yeah.
Yasham.
Yeah. That's him. Yeah, that's him.
I used to watch him.
Yeah.
We used to be on the phone together in 2009. Me, him, and a group of other guys.
Okay. Yeah.
I think he does music, in-depth studies on like the hip hop industry and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's yeah. So I was looking at the video. He was like, "Well, who do you think these curses can apply to?" And he started naming them, and then like, going into slavery and chains. Mm-hmm. And I know I didn't want to go into just the superficial stuff, but it was saying like, basically, you're going into captivity and no man shall redeem you. Right. Stuff like that. Like,
you have it is superficial.
Yeah, it's like
for a sign and a wonder point. It's like it's superficial.
Yeah, but and then the kicker for me was it said that this is how you're those people if these curses apply to you.
Right.
It's basically saying like if these curses apply to you, then and you'll be a sign and a byword to all the other nations.
Right. Probably, yeah.
I'm like, man, look, I don't know who else is applied to.
Right.
Because what the bywords are. We got plenty of them. Right. And so I'm like, I don't know the other people that got a bunch of bywords like that.
Yes. Everywhere we go.
So that was it. I was like, okay, that's it. We Israel.
Right.
You know, but it didn't stop there. It was like, okay, we Israel. What does that mean? Because I didn't know what it meant. Like, because
where do we go from here?
Yeah, where do we go from here? Because like back in the day, I'll never forget. I don't know if I asked my dad this or if I asked the pastor. You know, I was like, what does it mean to be a chosen people? Because, you know, of course, in the mindset of a Christian, I was thinking that, you know, the Jews, or quote unquote, in Israel now, I thought they were the quote unquote Israelites or Hebrews. You know, so I didn't know no better. I'm like, okay, if they're the chosen one, what makes them chosen?
Right.
I asked them that, nobody can answer. You know, so I was thinking like, is this just me? Is this some like, because everything like superheroes, like in the movies, like you've been chosen, you know, okay, well, what are they chosen for?
Right.
You know, but see and then understanding we were chosen for a particular purpose. We're supposed to be a witness to the other nations.
The whole world. That's right.
So, and the thing is, that was like, but then it went further than that because I started putting two and two together. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, we are in this country, well, it's scattered abroad, but we're the smallest or some of the smallest group of people on the earth, but we're the most influential as far as music, culture, anything that has to do with religion. And I'm like, I used to always think like, okay, there's 1 billion people in China, 1 billion people in India, and they not influencing the world like we influencing it? To me, I was like, because even as a kid, I'd be like, why is black people so talented? Like, why are we, all the things we've been through, everybody wants to be like us. They don't want to go through our problems.
But they want to be like us.
They want to be like us.
Yeah.
Man, that was confirmation enough for me. It was like full circle. Yeah. All the questions I had when I was a kid, it was like God was answering them.
Wow. Through
the curses.
So you was asking these questions as a young man?
Oh yeah. That's
amazing. Because
even as a kid, like, I don't know if it's just me, but I was just, you know, I think the mind state of not saying like, hey, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Not accepting everything that you were being taught. Right. Even though you were brainwashed into it, but it was like, I still asked those questions.
Right.
Not understanding the things that the church, the Christian church was doing was tradition.
Right.
And I used to be like, man, why do we do some of this stuff? Like, why do we, what's the word? Like, it was one thing, these I would say, like, you can't walk through the pulpit. You can't walk, because, like, why you can't walk through the pulpit? I used to ask that, like, why you can't walk through the pulpit?
Right.
You know, but then nobody could really answer it. It was just tradition.
I asked the question, I think I was like 12. I asked the preacher, I said, he was the assistant pastor. And I said, I read Exodus 20, man. And I went to him, I said, hey, we supposed to be going to church on Saturday? And he was like, well, no, Lord changed it to Sunday. I was like, but it say we supposed to be going on the 7th day of the week. Mm-hmm. And he's like, nah, but I just bookmarked it in my head, like, that don't make sense, man.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know? So I guess Lord be having mercy on some of us at a small age. You know what I'm saying?
That's it. Yeah. So I think that's kind of how that thing's, you know, the mindset was at least there to, I think the God could speak.
Question. Yeah. At least you know, a lot of people have that problem of even asking.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that's the beginning of it. Right then and there, man. You got to question what, like I said a lot, man, like just Google it.
Yep.
But most people don't want to Google. They're comfortable. But,
that's right.
You know, but you just asking those questions. I mean, just with the pulpit question.
Yep.
That right there can be looked at as this little nigga gonna be a rebel. You know what I'm saying? He gonna be a problem.
I'm telling you, like, we used to have Bible studies on Wednesdays, and we were split between the adults and the kids. And then I'll never forget, I didn't ask it. I wanted to ask it, but my cousin asked a question. It was something, I can't remember what the scenario was, but it was something, I think it had something to do with, what was it like? He said, hey, so can we, is it okay for us that, it has something to do with sex, basically. Mm-hmm. And, you know, we was teenagers, you know, like 14 and 15. And he asked the question about, like, is it okay for us to, you know, do that? And, you know, the lady was like, well, no, you're supposed to wait till marriage. But she didn't get into detail. He was like, well, what do you mean? Like, and he was kept asking questions and asking. He was basically just testing to see what she knew. And he couldn't answer, well, she couldn't answer the rest of his questions. So I was like, dang, I guess okay, well, maybe it's okay for us to do certain things we ain't supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? Because, or maybe I was thinking like, so in my mind, I was thinking like, man, I guess not he got her. I was saying it was a gotcha moment. It was like, man, I guess, we could just do what we want to do. You know what I'm saying? Right. And then we just, like I said, you go to church on Sunday and you forgive it. Right. That type of thing. So it was basically like just asking, questions about forgiveness and like, what do you like? Do we have any responsibility?
Right.
Is the end of the day. Like, that was kind of the overall point of the question, but I was like, man, okay, well, I guess we good to go then. They kept saying like, hey, as long as you pray, ask for forgiveness, you good. So, but yeah, it's stuff like that.
That's what they give you, man. Well, since you came into the Word, how can you say, it has impacted your life?
Oh man, it's changed my life completely. To the point where I used to have a lot of friends. I still got friends, like my core friend group. I say 2 or 3 people. You call them friends. People say you got friends, but do you really have friends who you got your back? Right. Like, hey man, look, I need some help with certain things, or
that's really associates.
Right, associates. So I used to be out in the world, man. Like, and when I say out there, I used to, hang out, go to the clubs on the weekends. I used to try to call myself being a ladies' man, and I was just like, man, I'm gonna, play the field and, and then, hey, have me a little bachelor pad and, kind of hang out and just kick it.
Right.
And that was kind of my mindset, I wasn't involved in, any well, actually I was in a fraternity, but that's a whole nother topic. I basically resigned from that, or I absolved myself from that.
Right.
But walking away from everything that I knew, that I thought was normal, and it's tough because it's like people know me, like they've seen me. I'm like, man, they call because my last name is Cooper. My homies call me Coop. Like, right. Coop, man, what's up, man? You ain't hanging out. What's up? You trying to kick it? Like, it was. I never forget. It was not too long ago. It was like maybe 4 or 5 years ago. We were supposed to go to Brazil. We had planned the trip. My homeboy was like, yeah, we're gonna go down there and kick it and hang out, because we had already went to Puerto Rico. We went to Puerto Rico, went to Cuba, and that was kind of our thing, to go out and hang out, party, and
right.
Talk to the women and stuff like that. And at this particular time, I was really getting into the truth. I said, man, I can't go. Bible said you gotta separate yourself, man. You gotta be ye separate from the world. Like, and one of the things that used to play in my mind was like, if you're a friend of the world, you're an enemy of God. So that would replay in my mind, because I had read that. I was like, man, okay, do I need to be associated with that? Am I going, because the thing is, I didn't want to, be, what's the word? Like, okay, if I say I'm gonna do, because at the time I was into the truth and getting into the truth, I had told myself, like, I'm gonna learn this and get closer to God. But if I make that confession to God, He's gonna hold you responsible for that. So I'm basically like, hey, I'm getting into this truth, and then here I'm trying to play both sides. Like a hypocrite.
Right.
I said, I can't do it. So that was like the thing. It was like changing my life from what it was to where I'm at now.
Wow.
It's like, man, I'm not, just, and not to say you don't make mistakes, but I'm just like, the man I was 4 or 5 years ago is completely different than the man I am now, as far as the mind state.
Right.
I just, like I said, going out and kicking it and, inviting girls to my crib and stuff like that. I just, it's one of the things I had to stop doing.
Right. Yeah, you definitely got to change, man. You can't straddle the fence.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the difference with what you get in traditional church as opposed to the true church.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like you said, your cousin was asking, like, responsibility, man. Like,
yeah,
I got to do something. Like,
right,
you mean
right.
tell me I ain't got to do nothing?
Right, exactly.
You know, and that's just the thing, man. Like, you're responsible for your own soul, man.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? And you got to change. You can, you know, like everybody had to let go whatever was causing us to be on our way to the lake of fire. We all had to give that up.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So we could save our life.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So, man, just amazing to hear that.
Yeah.
Because, you know, most people don't want to make that change, man.
And you know, the other Bible verse that popped into my head is fear of God is beginning of wisdom.
Yes. Yeah. Fear the Lord, beginning of wisdom, good understanding, have all they that do his command.
And then, like, I've watched and it's funny, that's how I found you guys through, what's his name? Pastor Elijah?
Yes.
In Indiana.
Elijah up in Gary, yeah.
So I started watching some of those videos, and he had a lesson on, you know, God who controls good and evil, basically. I'm just paraphrasing off the top of my head, but because I was always taught, like, okay, well, you know, you got God, he's good, you know, then Satan,
right?
evil, right? So, but then looking at the teaching and then the deeper understanding, like, God controls everything. See, people attribute things to Satan.
Right.
Like, no, God is the one. Then I start and then reading the book of Job and then understanding, like, nah, hey, you need to be afraid of the Most High. You don't need to be afraid of Satan.
That's right.
Because that's the one who can, you know, hey, just not destroy your body, but he can destroy your soul too.
Yes, sir.
So it's
Yes,
like,
sir.
that's when I got that revelation, I was like, man, I can't slip up.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Because I know who he is. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how that really kind of influenced me it made it easier for me to change. I say it like that because it's always been difficult to walk. This walk is never easy, and I'm still on this walk, you know, but just having that in the back of my mind, like, hey, you know, you got to be on that narrow path, man. You can't be deviating.
That's right.
You know, stuff like that. So,
well, speaking of the narrow path, what advice would you have for someone that's new in the Word?
Man, that's a tough question. Because I say everybody's walk is different. For somebody who's new in the Word, I would say try to surround yourself with brothers or sisters, if you're a sister, who has more tenure in the walk than you.
Right.
I say it like that can help you on the walk. You know, the Bible says not to forsake the coming together of our people. The assembly. So it's like having other people who are in the walk with you that can help you on the way, I think is crucial. Because starting out for me, I didn't have anybody. You know, I'm by myself. You know, and I forgot to mention this early on in my walk. I was looking at different people in Nashville. But, you know, Nashville still, you know, it's a pretty big city, but it's not like Atlanta where you have, you know, different organizations that you can fellowship with. You know, so I'm just like, man, who am I gonna fellowship with here? You know what I'm saying? Like, you had IUIC, you had GOCC, and you had a couple of other camps and stuff like that, but they were, you know, preaching like the Migraine, the devil, and all this stuff. I'm like, man, I don't know if that's, I don't want to be a part of that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like trying to find, you know, a group of people who align with, first of all, what the Bible says, but then also aligns with, you know,
who you are,
who I am.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how, you know, what it was. But I would say definitely that the advice would be to find some people who, you know, are in the Word and that can help guide you and teach you along the way. So you're not out there trying to figure stuff out on your own.
Yeah, that's definitely key, man. You know, it's like getting somebody to take you up under their wing. You know what I'm saying? Because you can get overwhelmed, especially during this time of the year. Oh yeah. You know what I'm saying? With these holidays and all that type of stuff.
Yes, indeed.
And you know, this is a time where a lot of families come together.
Yeah.
And when you out there by yourself, man, it just feels like, dang, man, maybe I should go back. You know
Oh man, I almost went back so many times. I ain't gonna front, man.
So that advice is definitely good, man. Get, you know, in fellowship, keep the Sabbath.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because most people don't know it's a lot of us out here.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
that's
saying?
true.
Like my sister-in-law, she was up in Tennessee. You know what I'm saying? It just so happened, like right up the street from her, there was another family up in Tennessee. You know what I'm saying? It's just being faithful with what you have, and the Lord will put you together with other people. But don't be afraid to, you know, forsake everything else and assemble with that brother and sister so you can get your faith built up.
Yes, indeed.
With so many different religions floating around, what impact do you think a better understanding of the Bible would have on people around the world?
Oh man, it changed everything. If people understood the Bible, first of all, it would force people to change and to understand like the principles in the Bible. Like, I mean, even just the 10 Commandments, like love your neighbor as you love yourself. I mean, it seems simple and practical, but at the same time, I mean, I guess because people have been indoctrinated for so long. But as far as if people understood the Bible and read it, I think it would change. I think, first of all, our people, if we got into the Bible like the Bible says, our state of being right now, as far as being quote unquote the lowest, we would go back to where our rightful place is in leadership. And I think that's the thing. It's like, because I was talking to one of my friends earlier this week. I'm like, man, look, because we were having a similar conversation. I'm like, man, imagine, look at how influential we are in our low estate. We ain't even gotten the kingdom yet. Right. We still in the low estate, but look at how influential we are. Look at how God has allowed us to still have our gifts, you know, to be able to preach the word, to be able to the music, even if the word is outside the truth, you know, because you know the saying in the Bible saying having zeal for the Most High, having zeal for God, but not according to knowledge. So even with them having that zeal, even though if it's not according to knowledge, but you still have people following that because they see how influential it is. So it's like, you know, because God has given us those gifts. You know, the gift, I guess you would say, the gift of gab or gift of talking, the gift of just chosen. Yeah. So I just said, man, look,
like a holy people, bro.
Yeah.
So this people are sanctified by God.
There you go.
And like you said, even in our lowest estate, we still like the whole world is influenced by it. You take Israel out of this world,
what you got? It's nothing. It's nothing. That's right.
Like when Jesus told us, he said, "Y'all the salt of the earth." Oh, he meant that.
He meant that. Yeah.
You know, like even spiritually and physically, Israel is the salt of the earth, man.
Yes, indeed.
Like, straight up, man.
Yes, indeed. So I say, like, if we would come together and understand the Bible like it's supposed to be understood, the world will change. Yeah. Literally, the world will change. I would say overnight, to be honest with you, but maybe the Most High may have some time for Gentiles to kind of understand. But us as a people, if we came on one accord in the word, it changed the whole world.
And it's funny you say that because that's what's going to happen when the Lord get back.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's why you starting to see the awakening take place. The Lord starting to breathe into his people, bring us back to life. And it's all you know, catapulting us into the future.
Yes, sir.
You know, and once that happens, man, the whole world going to be at peace.
Yes, sir. Yes, indeed.
You know?
Yes,
so
indeed.
that's definitely a great observation on that, man.
Yes, indeed.
So we done made it to the last question.
Okay.
I don't know how far you got in watching the interview, but this is the last question. This is called a hot seat question.
Okay.
And if you watched it, you prepared. If you
watched
the whole interview, you prepared.
I did.
Well, you should be ready.
I think I should be ready.
Okay. So, what's your favorite book in the Bible?
Okay.
In the Scripture, your favorite book in the Bible and Scripture, and tell us why.
Okay. So here's the thing. I know the favorite book. I don't know if I can give you the exact scripture though in the Bible, but I'll say my favorite book is Job.
Who?
Job. Yeah. Okay. Just because it's a lot of meat there that I think people miss because it's like it's telling you so much just in that one book, and it's like, man, look, I learned that God is in control. Just in that whole, if I can sum it up everything, and just
God is in control.
God is in control.
That's
And it's like, when you get that understanding, it's like, man, Satan can't do anything without God's permission. I see now as a youth, or I say youth in the word, I'm still learning, but I'm saying in the Christian church, I'm thinking like, well, Satan works independently of God. You thinking like, God don't really control him. He's just doing his thing, and then God's just letting him do it. But no, like, God is using Satan as a tool.
Right.
Most people don't understand that.
Right.
So it's like that right there, when getting that understanding from that book, it's just like, okay, yeah, this is my favorite book right here.
Wow.
I do like some things in, Revelation, because it tell you, the end times and stuff like that. Prophetic, and then the book of Daniel, which has some prophecies as well.
Oh, yeah, a lot, yeah.
But I say definitely Job is probably my favorite for sure.
Okay.
I just can't give you an exact verse, man. I wish I could. I just know.
Okay, well, what's the scripture in the Bible that rings in your mind?
So
if somebody's going to ask you about the truth, whether it be Jew or Gentile, what would you want to lead them to send them on their journey? The first thing that comes to your mind. Because you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, you're right. I would. So here's the thing. It depends on who I'm talking to. If I'm talking to one of us, I take them straight to Deuteronomy 28. I say just read the whole book,
right? The
whole chapter,
right?
Because that's what's going to get you the understanding of. Because I think and there's still some of our people who don't know that we're Israel,
right?
So I think that I would start there, just so they can get them, like, hey, being curious about who these people are, like who is this? What is this book talking about? And I think that, because that's what helped me on my journey when I was learning. Because I think, like I was saying, like you were asking earlier, as far as Israel, what this book is about, like it's about Israel, and they're serving God, serving the Most High, and them being the nation of leaders, or basically the ministers, the priests.
Right.
So that's kind of how I look at it. Like if I'm speaking to one of our people, like I'm leading to Deuteronomy 28.
Right.
But if I'm going to a Gentile, I would probably start maybe, somewhere like with Paul's writings.
Yeah.
Because he's the apostle to the Gentiles. So basically just, maybe like Corinthians and, stuff like that, just showing them like, hey, you have an opportunity to be a part of this too.
That's right.
So you're not just like how some of the other camps preach, like you just condemn because you Esau.
Right.
I'm like, well, the Bible says not to abhor an Edomite.
Right.
So it's like, which is it? You gonna hate them, or we supposed to love our brother?
Not even Edomite.
Right, exactly. They're not even Edom.
Right.
So it's like, but I'm saying that the mindset that they think,
Right.
So it's like, I would, for any Gentile, I'm like, look, you have an opportunity as well. You are essentially a brother. If you follow the commandments, you keep commandments, we brothers.
Absolutely.
And that's how I look at it. So it's like, that's how I would kind of approach it, just depending on who I'm talking to.
Right.
Stuff
that's
like
what's
that.
up, man. Well, we've come to the end of the interview, man.
All right.
So in the future, I'm gonna revisit some of the interviews here with some people. So I just want you to know, on the next interview, Lord willing, you got to tell us what happened with the sister.
Oh man, that's a long story right there. That'd be a whole other hour.
But until then, man, Brother Jeremy, I want to thank you, man, for coming out and sharing your story, man. It was good to meet you, brother.